Views expressed in the videos are my observation, analysis of events, persons based on principles of astrology. It's not my intent to predict, forecast absolute outcomes, only suggest how they may unfold. Nothing is set in stone. I could be wrong, but often I'm right. My desire is not to promote fear, only inform about what we see unfolding. It is our wish to prepare our subscribers for events that could affect them, their family, their goals, and their future, to help to prepare for what you may already suspect is happening, and to send a warning shot across the bow and raise a flag of concern. Our goal is to help, not hinder, in these perilous times, to inspire and offer possible direction, and to reveal that a greater plan and purpose are behind all that is happening. Eventually, we will see a brighter day. If you would like to show your appreciation for our work on these videos or this channel, and also the Knowing Whispers channel, you can always click on the word thanks at the bottom of all the videos. Hello everybody, it's Robert Cosmar of the Astrology of Life YouTube channel and the 3 Substack newsletters, Knowing Whispers, Messages from the Universe, Trump in America, and Ask the Astrologer. Today I am going to be doing a video that parallels a timeline between now and into 2025 of the charts of the United States of America, the chart of Donald Trump, and the chart of Kamala Harris. And what I hope to do in this video is to show you the parallel of the specific aspects that are active at these times in each one of those areas, and to suggest to you that obviously they're linked together somehow. Okay? Many of you probably already know that there are many that are out there saying that something big is going to happen between now and the election. So I'm going to try to point out to you what I feel could be the timeline here and the point of intensification to when things could happen. And to also end it all with a couple of graphs that I've talked about before, which show the combined transits and progressions of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris leading up to the election and also after the election. Okay, and to bring in another idea that has occurred to me. As you know, and I'll just briefly talk about this, there is some concerns about retaliation from Iran towards Israel because of the assassination of a couple of the Hezbollah individuals. And the thing that occurred to me, and you can put this in the back of your mind here, was the opposition on election day between Mars and Pluto. Okay, up until this point, my reference about that had to do with the potential for violence around the election. Okay, but what if, because this is a global aspect, this is not to necessarily a personal planet only, which it is, the United States chart, but it's also a global aspect. In other words, it's an aspect in the sky that covers the entire Earth. So keep in mind, this Mars opposing Pluto could be an interference in how things develop around the election. Again, there are some indications that the election could be delayed, and I'll talk about that as well here. Okay? Now, to do what I want to do here, I'm using the graphic ephemeris. If you have not used one of these or you have not seen one of these in your astrology software, most of them have it. What you have over here are the planets by their degrees, okay, of the natal chart, and this is the USA. And then you have the transiting planets by aspect to these natal points. And what you look for as an astrologer are points of intensification where there's a lot of, let's say, hard aspects going on at the same time, or there are very significant aspects of the outer planets, hard aspects that are going on at a particular time. Okay, now I'm going to point down here to something that I've talked about in other videos, and I may talk about this until the election because I want to try to pinpoint things, put a zoom lens on it, and talk more about the houses involved, okay, and what they could mean. But what you're seeing here, this is basically the end of August, okay, and then this is September, all right, and here, something else which I didn't catch until today, believe it or not, but I wanted to point out to you, is that beginning with September, we have several planets that go stationary retrograde and then stationary direct. Now, if you have read about this in your astrology studies, or if you already know this because you're an astrologer, you know the intensification, that when planets slow down, what they bring. They really bring an impetus. It's almost like the universe is saying, look here, look right now. And if you take a look here, okay, here's Uranus stationary retrograde, Pluto stationary direct, Neptune stationary direct, Uranus goes stationary direct in January, Jupiter stationary retrograde, Jupiter stationary direct, Saturn stationary direct. Okay, so this is like a point in time, an emphasis of a point in time stops. It's like it's frozen. It's like your situation, for example, with 9/11 or when Kennedy was assassinated. Okay, it's where an event occurs that leaves an indelible impression upon your mind, okay, about something significant happened at this point in time. So we have all of this energy that is slowing down to indicate a period, okay, actually covering several months, where we could see a significant event or events occurring that will be memorable. Now, you'll notice I have these three arrows down here. And these two arrows right here probably are the most significant of the ones that I have been talking about. This is transiting Uranus, squaring the moon in the chart of the United States of America. Again, when you have a hard aspect between Uranus and the moon, you have really emotional excitability, emotional irritation, emotional, concern, just a sense of things not being balanced, not being stable. Okay, and as I mentioned in one of my other videos, when I talk about Uranus in any of these charts, I want you to keep in the back of your mind that Uranus rules the elections, or voting, really, in elections. It also is Neptune and also the 12th house. Okay, but for practical purposes in this particular video, I'm using this Uranus, and I want to keep you aware of this, because these could be election issues. This could be something underhanded that's discovered that's already somewhat suspected, but nobody really has nailed it. It's upsetting. This is the chart of the United States of America. So the moon represents the public, okay, at large, and in a sense, so does Aquarius, all right? But Uranus here, all right, is that unexpected, unplanned, unknowable disturbance that comes in and creates just emotional havoc, or can create emotional havoc. So we have this energy at that particular time with a lot of things that are going on, all right, at this particular time. On September the 18th, Donald Trump is to be sentenced, all right. On, I think, the 19th of August, Kamala Harris and the rest of the Democratic Party will get together, all right, for their convention. So there are a lot of factors that are going on at this time, and I hope to show you here how these possibly can run together. Now, I'm going to go to the second chart that I've got here. This is the chart of Donald Trump. Natal planets over here, transiting planets here, and you can see all of this activity here that's going on at the same period that Uranus is squaring the moon. So, all right, when you see patterns of charts with similar energies in one way, shape, or form at the same time, you have to ask yourself, boy, I wonder if these are all tied together. Okay, keep in mind also that Uranus is one of the very strong planets in Donald Trump's horoscope. Okay, and I've talked about this at length from time to time. Many probably have wondered that are just beginning in astrology, because you'll get a lot of the cookbooks that have been written about the outer aspects. And when you read the ones that are the squares, the conjunctions, and the oppositions, you can relate to that. But the thing that's hard to relate to with an outer aspect of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are the conjunctions at times, the sextiles, and the trines. Oftentimes, nothing seems to happen. The reason why nothing happens is that those planets represent higher self energies that what happens is out of your control. Okay? Whether something does happen or not could have something to do with your own particular karma, fate, and destiny. Okay? And depending upon the circumstances, depending upon the individual, depending upon their karma and fate, some people may be activated and others may not. Okay? So I wouldn't be too upset about that if you just had a positive aspect between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto and nothing happened. If you did and something happened, then karmically it was something that was meant to happen for you. And if it didn't happen, it is not time. Okay? And maybe you were not ready. So let's take a look here. We know that Uranus is squaring the moon in the USA chart. Uranus is squaring Donald Trump's Mars. Okay? The first time this happened, and this would have probably been about July right here, okay, when it happened the first time, because it happens 3 times, is when Uranus squared Mars, okay, and the assassination attempt occurred. All right, now, in probably early October, you see that it crosses that line again. It goes retrograde, okay? So, something here, again, possibly is going to happen, and I think I can show you in another chart, if I do the circular charts, that I believe at that time that Mars, which was squaring Trump's natal Mars, is conjuncting exactly on, I think, the 18th, the day of the sentencing, his natal Mercury. Okay, and I will have other charts to do that are separated from these. They include this information, but I want to, like I said, pinpoint things to give you a better idea of, okay, what area could this happen in? All right, so again, the circumstances here, very interesting correlation between the Uranus squaring the moon in the chart of the U.S. and Uranus squaring Donald Trump's Mars. And you can see here by its retrograde motion that it doesn't go very far away from its exact squaring to Mars itself. So again, these situations could develop at any time. Normally they don't happen until you're within possibly a degree or less of the actual exactness of the square. Okay? A couple other things to keep in mind here when you're talking about this time period is right here. Saturn in Donald Trump's chart, okay, I believe this is an opposition to his natal Uranus. Okay? Saturn is the planet that represents stability and form, whether it's your beliefs or your activities, your work that you're doing, things of this nature. Uranus again is the unexpected. So here again we have these circumstances that have a real heavy-duty karmic flavor to them, of things that could happen that are really unexpected, totally unexpected. Okay. I think I mentioned in the last video that I did, we all know that the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris, her being placed in the situation that she's in up to this point, has brought life back to the Democratic Party. And there was a feeling of relief, a renewed feeling of hope. She is blowing away money. It's like the entire Democratic Party decided to come alive and to do something that they could do. Okay, which is to back her in her election bid here. But there are some concerns that I mentioned in another video when I talked about the Democratic National Convention. All right, now, I haven't done a chart yet of that date with her. I did it with just Chicago, Illinois. So I was basically doing a chart to talk about the energies in Chicago at that particular time. And as I showed you, there are several key squares from Uranus and several key squares from Saturn going on that particular day. And I think it'll be interesting to show you how that actually affects Kamala Harris's chart. I think that it's not beyond the realm of possibility that some unexpected things could occur at that time. We'll just have to wait and see how it happens. But you can see here now how this is all kind of working itself together here. Uranus in the USA chart, Uranus in the chart of the past President Donald Trump. Okay. All right. Now let's take a look here at some other factors here. At around the time of the Democratic National Convention, all right, there is going to be a square. All right. Within a couple of days, Trump's Saturn opposes his Uranus, and Trump's progressed Venus squares his natal Saturn. Okay. This particular progression is really a troublesome aspect. You're talking about things that are relative to Venus and things that are relative to Saturn, and he has conjunct Venus and Saturn in his natal chart. Okay, now he has got, okay, this square. And I have often thought, well, maybe Melania, as she sees things kind of going south right now, decides that, well, I'm going to divorce him because he's failed to live up to his agreement. All right. It could also be, and like I said, I'll do this particular video and I'll go into the houses and I'll talk about the other factors that may be included in this. But it's a very unfortunate time in dealing with women, in terms of dealing with anything in his life politically, or that he had hoped to be able to get support. It's just not looking good, as you know, for him right now. But as I have cautioned everybody for probably the last 6 years, you don't want to count Donald Trump out until you know it's over, okay? Because there is something going on here beyond just politics that is having an effect spiritually upon the country and the world. And it needs to have some level of impact to bring about the changes that we all know that need to happen, but maybe we are concerned or we're afraid about what it'll take to make it happen. And that's totally understandable. Okay, so again, this month is very significant in terms of Donald Trump's situation. All right, you know, I think that Elon Musk has backed him for some strange, bizarre reason, but I guess from a business standpoint, it makes perfect sense. Because I think he's losing money in certain areas and he's wanting to kind of do what he has to do to make certain financially that he's going to be able to continue to thrive, you know, being the richest man in the world. And hopefully he's got a very bad astrologer because he likes astrology. He apparently uses astrology. So I would imagine, as odd as this situation is concerned, that maybe some astrologer, his astrologer, had convinced him to go ahead and try. Maybe did an electional chart or something like that. Time will tell. All right. All right. I think the last one I've got here is Kamala Harris. This is Kamala Harris' natal chart positions. We do have the exact time of birth of both Kamala and Donald. And then you can see here, okay, that we have something going on beginning in September, all right, going through to November, all right, and then actually into December. And what's going on here is that her transiting Saturn is opposing Pluto, okay, in about the middle of September. This is about the time when Donald Trump is going to get sentenced, okay, and then it opposes Uranus, okay, before the election, okay. Now, keep in mind that I mentioned earlier that Uranus essentially rules voting and elections. Okay, so what I'm suggesting here is this an indication, okay, in regards to her campaign, that something happens that affects the ability of the elections to take place? Could there be something that is not seen? Remember, I've talked about the fact that some of the planets in Donald Trump's horoscope in relationship to Kamala Harris, he has a bundle of his personal planets in her 12th house, the house of secrets, okay? The secrets and underhanded behind the scenes type things. So the question is that we don't know, okay, is what is he planning behind the scenes? We know that he's hoping that he'll be able to get the election, if he is losing, before the Supreme Court. We know that transiting Mars and Pluto are opposed, that he may be able to arouse his followers into some kind of violent activity. It's very doubtful that it would have a major effect, but it could have an effect, let's say, like the January the 6th of 2021, was it? The situation with, the Congress and the travesty of the people that died and the police that were beat up. So Saturn in any aspect to the outer planets is a disturbance in your plans. You are not able to function as you normally would because outside disruptions, Uranus and Pluto, unforeseen circumstances crop up. Okay, and you're kind of crippled and you're hindered. And again, keep in mind, as I pointed out to you in the very first image I showed you, that all of these planets at this particular time here, you're talking about retrograde, stationary direct, so their energy, is more powerful. Okay, this translates into, again, as I said, a memorable event in terms of what it does. So we can expect, this is why I did these this way, we can expect during this period of time between now and the election there to be unforeseen circumstances. When I was doing the chart here talking about Donald Trump and when he gets sentenced, all right, I will do, like I said, I'll do a separate chart for that event, and I'll do a separate chart for Kamala Harris probably and the Democratic National Convention to try to kind of hone in on, okay, what are the energies saying here about these two people and what is happening right now? That particular sentencing, the circumstances around the sentencing for Trump could indicate, from what I've just briefly looked at, that the judge does toss a severe sentence on Donald Trump, and we'll just have to wait and see what occurs at that point in time. But again, the circumstances at that time are not looking favorable. Uranus is very close to being exact square again to Donald Trump's natal Mars, and as I said before, Mars is conjunct his Mercury at that particular time, sometime during that day. All right, now let's go and take a look at these charts that I think I've discussed briefly in the past on other videos I've done. I think they tell us something. All right. You're looking right here at the chart of Kamala Harris, and it's from August the 1st on through August the 12th, 2025. You can see here that right before the election, there's a tremendous amount of activity here, positive energy moving forward. Campaign activity moving forward. When we get close to the election, though, it dips. It dips right here. Remember I mentioned about Saturn opposing her Pluto and Saturn opposing her Uranus, okay? Sometime after this, okay, maybe late November or beyond that, we have this huge jump. What these lines mean are the positive aspects between the planets in her natal chart, the progressed planets that are positive in her natal chart. All of these things indicate a forward movement in a person's aspirations and goals. So a tremendous boost here, all right, after the election, all the way into March, all right. And the red line are mental attitude, and the blue would be career or business success. All right, now, let's take a look at Donald Trump here. All right, basically the same timeline. You can see here that going up until the election, there's tremendous energy. Okay, actually, it's pretty high prior to the election, which would be somewhere in here. And then all of a sudden, it dips. It flattens out, but there is a spike here. Okay, it could indicate that all of this is the devious, underhanded stuff that he does leading up until the election. Okay, it could be a hopefulness. He sees the light at the end of the tunnel, because right now he can't be terribly happy about what he's seeing, because again, he's seeing himself losing on many fronts. And he knows that he can't win by being fair or decent. All right? So I'm sure somewhere in a little box on his desk, he has a box that says dirty and devious tactics. And he has already spent maybe more time looking at those, okay, than anything else. All right? So, again, there is some indication here, okay, of a dead spot around the time of the election or before the election. All right? And then these indications right here could be, for example, after the election and it looks like he's lost, but he decides to appeal to the Supreme Court and he feels good for a few days because of the fact they said, yeah, we'll look at it, which would be no big surprise. All right. You may have read in the news here that one of the Supreme Court justices apparently was trying to intimidate President Biden by telling him to be very careful about what he does with these reforms, which we all know by common sense need to happen. You know, that the justices in the Supreme Court need to have term limits. They need to be investigated. They need to be, maybe in some cases, put in prison. All of these things, if we're to function as a, quote, healthy, normal democracy, have to happen because they really reflect upon how seriously we take what we call the rule of law until something else better comes along, which we know the only way that's going to happen is if we and humanity have a change in consciousness. And this essentially, again, is why all this is happening, because the universe wants many of us to wake up, okay? Many of us to realize that as things are we as now, that it can't continue that way, okay? That personal responsibility during these times is absolutely critical if you hope to come out on the positive side of all the things that are going to happen and unfold. Okay, I think I've covered all the things I wanted to cover and to show you these different things. And I will, like I said, do individual videos, okay, about Trump and Harris at critical points in the campaign to try to explain what's happening, where's it happening, why is it happening, so that you get a sense of understanding that this is just not something that's happening for no reason, that there is a purpose behind it. Okay? All right. I want to say thank you to all of you that were in last Saturday's live stream. We had over 40 folks join the live stream. It's my hope that beginning then on through this month and September and into October, that those 40 plus individuals will continue to come and join us in that live stream. It's important. I think the information I have to share is important. And I think that not just the astrological factors relative to Trump and Harris and stuff, but also the aspects of what's happening in terms of the awakening process, so that you have a sense within yourself of where you're at, okay, within your own awakening, why things are happening to you, how you might feel about them. I try to strike a blending between both of those. So, again, I'll put it out into the community section here in maybe a few days or so when I'm going to have the next one this month. Also, I had put out there in a poll, those of you that might be interested in being in an online class after the first of the year. Had a great response from that. Very encouraging, and I will keep you in contact, okay, in the community section as we get closer to that period of time about all the specific factors, the cost, the way in which I would like to do that particular training, that teaching. I'm going to rely that those of you that want to take the course, that you have already learned the basics, okay, unless you have questions about the basics in astrology, which are welcome. I'll be more than happy to talk about that. But I want to leave the platform open so that maybe before each session that you email me what you would like to know about, talk about, things like that, so that we have kind of a spontaneity in each one of the sessions, that you learn something unexpected and something new that maybe you didn't know about astrology. to take you above just the basics, okay, and just, focusing on that into understanding how it all comes together. Because I would imagine if you're wanting to take an astrology class, it's because you feel a lack of confidence in your knowledge, okay? Very normal, okay? There's many things about astrology that I don't know, all right, even after 40 years. And that's okay too. And we can talk about that. And I can talk about my experience as an astrologer, what I have learned, what it's like, okay, in terms of dealing with clients and doing a reading and stuff, because there is a certain amount of confidence that you feel you need when you're doing readings, particularly in the beginning. It can be very intimidating. All right. I remember when I started doing these videos online, it was intimidating. Okay. But I knew this is what I needed to do. All right. And if you are called to be an astrologer, this is the way it is with you. No matter how intimidated you may feel or what lack of confidence you may have, you're determined that you're going to see it all the way through because you feel driven somewhere inside of yourself to do something. Okay. So keep in mind, my partner CJ and I both have newsletters on the platform Substack. I have 3. CJ has 2. Hers are called CJ's World and CJ's Whispers of Knowing. Yeah, Whispers of Knowing. And we share what our guidance gives us for those of you that are aware and awake or beginning to become aware and awake, and you're looking for something that resonates to your soul, something that supports what it is you're going through. Our work is supporting the awakening process of others. With me, it's astrology and also the writing. And with CJ, it's the writing as well, in her case. So keep that in mind. And I hope that you'll join us over there. It is basically free, unless you want to support the writing platform of our work. But you can also go over there and join, and it won't cost you a dime. So keep that in mind. Okay. From the love of my life, CJ, my spiritual partner, my best friend, in some ways my mentor, my teacher, love of my life, all of those things. Okay. Been very blessed to have CJ in my life. Okay. And I think that by now you know that. Okay. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope that this video resonates with you in positive ways. Take care.